viruses changed the face of life on Earth forever. Out of nowhere, an army of giants called mutants appeared. They slaughtered many people and altered many more to add to their numbers. The Brotherhood of Steel, self-appointed knights of the wasteland, arose to drive off the mutants. They gave humanity peace and a glimmer of hope. But even now, the Brotherhood remains small in number, limited in power. And the dangers of the wasteland only seem to grow with each day that passes.
Fallout Brotherhood of Steel for the PS2. I've been looking at the game to play for a long time and never really got around to it until now. I finally got a chance to play it, and I wasn't as impressed as I was hoping I would be. And the main reason Brotherhood of Steel wasn't doing it for me was because it really doesn't feel like Fallout. I think the idea behind the game was solid when it was coming out, because you have to keep in mind this game came out before Fallout 3, and especially before Fallout New Vegas came out. And Interplay, the developers of the game, probably had a train of thought that went something like this. Alright guys, Fallout on the PC is pretty amazing. Let's bring it over to the consoles and get a whole new market. Well, what are we going to do on the consoles? We can't do a point-and-click game like we do on the PC, because they don't have controls and derping around. It's going to be hard. So Interplay said, well, let's take the universe and move the camera up and make it free-roam action game. And Interplay was like, yeah, free-roam action game. That hasn't been done before. And they went with it. In transition to this action RPG, it took away everything that made Fallout unique. So you're still in the wasteland, but everything else is totally different. So they removed everything from the game that made Fallout feel unique. In Brotherhood of Steel, there's really no moral choice system. There's choices to pick, but they're really kind of mundane things. A good example is when you go to the bartender and he asks you to kill a few rad scorpions that are in a warehouse blocking his goods. The game makes you think that you have a choice, like you can take this quest or not. You have a few options of things to say in response. He offers you money, and so you can say, 10 caps a tail, huh? Well, alright, and then you accept the quest. Or you can say, sounds like a stupid plan, but it's your money, I'll be back with those tails. Or you can say, maybe I'll bring you some tails, maybe I won't. I had some other questions. Either way, you have to accept his quest. If this were really a Fallout game, there should be a choice that would say something along the lines of, fuck you, when you draw your gun and then you kill him. And without that choice, you really don't feel like you're playing Fallout. You could be playing any other action RPG. Maybe this next point wouldn't be as bad if I played the game a little bit further, or at least more than the first handful of quests, but the locations that you visited were very boring. In the Fallout games, you have interesting locations like the small shady sands, or, Necropolis, or the hub town. But here you just have, like, this one desert location area, and a boring old warehouse with boxes and scorpions. So you're not really going anywhere cool, and when you do go to a new place, it's all scripted. You're not going there because you're adventuring, which is what Fallout is, good for. You're going there because you have to. Along those same lines, there's no interesting characters to interact with. You're talking to people, but they don't really have any class or personality. They just seem like they're there because they need to give you a quest, or Interplay decided there needs to be some sort of hooker outside the bar just for, fuck's sake, that she needs to be there. So why even bother? If you're going to play an action RPG like this, you might as well play a better one, and better ones exist for the system. You could be playing Champions of Norath or its sequel, or even better, you could be playing Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 1 or 2, which are arguably better games than this one, and they may be a little bit harder to find than this, but I'd say it's worth putting up a little bit extra money to get that quality of game. When I was thinking about Brotherhood of Steel, I realized something, and I'm positive that I'm accurate in my assumption here. Fallout 3 is what Brotherhood of Steel was supposed to be. Now, I'm not saying that Interplay was supposed to make Fallout 3 the way Bethesda did, but I'm saying that the ideas behind Fallout 3 are what the ideas behind Brotherhood of Steel should have been. So think of it this way. Someone had the great idea of turning the Fallout world into an action RPG world. Now, they can't really have the hexagon grid that they had in the first two Fallout games because it just wouldn't work with the action RPG sense. So they get rid of that, and they move the camera up so you have a better view of all the action. Speaking of action, now it's all free form. There's no turns that you take, you just shoot when you can and move when you can. There's more items to get, there's less armor to equip, and it's all about killing things and getting experience points. Brotherhood of Steel lacks the story elements that Fallout 1 and 2 had, but if you look past that and just consider all the things we had just talked about, you realize that the game you have in mind is undoubtedly Fallout 3. But to be fair, that is just me nitpicking the game after a better one came out, so I can't fault the game for that, because at the time of release, well, you couldn't draw that comparison because the game wasn't there. Okay, enough about what I didn't like about the game. There actually were a few things I did like about the game. So the first thing, and arguably the most important thing they could have gotten right, was that leveling up and killing things feels really good. So you shoot stuff, and it explodes in a mass of blood and guts and nasty pus, and that always feels good. When you get enough experience and level up, you get to add more stats to your character, and yeah, they follow the same Fallout special guidelines and traits, and it feels cool, because you realize that you're doing more damage and you can do more stuff. So they got that core gameplay down. Again, I didn't get there because I didn't play the game all the way through, but I see online that if you actually play the game far enough, you can unlock the Vault Dweller from the first Fallout. That's fucking awesome. I mean, that's like the coolest thing they could have added to the game, because that's the only real redeeming factor that I can see for the game being called Fallout. And if I could choose the Vault Dweller from the beginning, I would totally choose him. The game also features 2-player co-op, which I unfortunately couldn't partake in because, like I said, I don't have a partner to play with. But if I did, I could see it being a little bit more fun, you know, running around killing stuff with a buddy. But like I said before, if you're going to play a game in this genre, there's better games out there that give you a much better and much more visceral experience that's more memorable than this. So overall, would I recommend Fallout Brotherhood of Steel, PS2 or Xbox? That really depends on how much of a fan of the genre and of Fallout you are. Me, I'm a big fan of Fallout, so I'd recommend it to a Fallout fan just because it's more of the universe. Whether or not that's a good universe is up to the discretion of the player. But to everyone else, if you're looking for a good action RPG to play, there's way better RPGs out there. And if you're looking for a co-op RPG to play, your numbers are a lot more limited, but there are plenty other RPGs out there that you can play with a friend, on the PS2 or otherwise. Fallout Brotherhood of Steel is one of those rare instances where the game isn't bad, it's just a big, big letdown.
For many years without the help from any Brotherhood, we do what we must in order. I don't converse.